Welcome to today's Sales Hacker webinar with Mattermark, and we got a great one for you today, how to leverage data from your most profitable customers to find more just like them. And so this is really important. I mean, data in sales has really, seen massive amounts of advancement over the past few years. And what you can do with today's data in your sales process really opens up some doors unlike ever before. So we're going to let Edward Chiu, Director of Sales and Customer Success at DigitalOcean, and Andy Sparks, Co-founder and COO of Mattermark, talk a little bit more about this, and then we'll have some questions for them at the end, so make sure you stick around. At the end today also, we're going to be giving away a gift card if you complete a survey afterwards. So make sure to stick around, ask questions. If you can help us out with the survey, that would be amazing. Tweet at us at #SHWebinar. Any questions you have, you can ask there, or you can ask in the GoToWebinar control panel. Anything that we don't get to, we'll try and get to you afterwards on Twitter. This will be recorded and put on saleshacker.com later this week. So without any further delay, I'm going to let Edward take it from here. But thanks again for joining us. And Edward, go for it.
Awesome. Thank you, Max. Can everyone see my I guess, can you see my presentation okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. So just really quickly, I run sales and customer success at DigitalOcean. And as Max, you were saying, I mean, understanding data and leveraging it and trying to find your best customers using the data that you have available to you is incredibly important, both from customer retention to gathering more customers. So really quickly, DigitalOcean in a nutshell, we are an infrastructure as a service provider. We make it very easy for companies, for developers to deploy their web applications into the cloud. And we allow entrepreneurs building the next Facebook or Instagram to very easily manage their servers. So that's it from a very high level what DigitalOcean is. And the interesting thing is we've gone from a small startup to now we're one of the largest hosting providers in the world. We have almost 700,000 customers across 196 countries. Droplet is a very cute name that we've created that stands for virtual machine. And we've raised 123 million, very, very healthy raise for us. We have a lot of cash in the bank. It's really allowed us to position ourselves to be able to be competitive in this market. Now, this is the interesting side here is we got to 700,000 customers worldwide, all through organic growth, word of mouth, without a sales team. This is purely from an amazing product that we've built, unbelievable customer service that we provide to every single customer. And that's a pretty incredible accomplishment for a company with only 250 employees. Cloud infrastructure is a very, very competitive market. And I'm going to go through a few things of what we've done and how we've been able to get to this growth. And one thing to know, we recently launched a sales team in January of 2016, so I'll tie into some of our learnings as well moving into the data discussion. So why have we been so successful and how we've been able to grow so quickly as a company? We're very, very focused on high-value customers. Now, when I say high-value customers, it means something very, very different for every single company. But basically, a high-value customer is somebody that spends enough money that you pay attention to, somebody who uses your product to its full potential. And there are a small percentage of these users, yet they account for a significant portion of your revenue. So which means if one customer decides to spend more money, it's going to significantly change the growth of your company. And if one of those customers leave, it's going to make a big dent on your revenue as well. So the next part is they are already a customer, which means they know your product well. You can convince them to spend more money. And they're the easiest customers to get to spend more revenue on top of your platform. And high-value customers know other high-value customers, which means if you treat them well, they become your champions for your product. And the only way to treat them well is you have to know a lot about your best customers. What do they look like and how are they using their product? And the last point is these high-value customers, they can be very, very helpful when it comes to product usage and understanding how do they use your product, what features are missing. Do they use other competitors of yours because your product today doesn't support everything that they require? So all of this is not only helpful for retention, it's helpful for to understand a little bit of what you're trying to do for them. And Max, feel free to interrupt me anytime if you feel like if there's any questions or any questions from the attendees.
Will do.
So there's a number of ways that you can generate revenue. And the customer success team, for the past 2 years, we grew the total ARR by 166%. The actual growth rate was significantly higher at 412% compared to the rest of the company. So that's something that is very, very remarkable in how we take care of our high-value customers, how they contribute to our revenue. And something else that we measure from a data standpoint is churn. We measure from a churn perspective, we measure account churn and we measure revenue churn. Account churn being the customer completely just stops using your product altogether, no longer a customer. And revenue churn is that customer hasn't completely left yet, but is starting to dwindle. Either way, churn is bad for the business as a whole. And in 2015, DigitalOcean had a less than 1% churn rate, which is an unbelievable stat for a company that is considered a startup. I mean, we've raised $123 million. We've gotten a significant amount of customers, but you can't possibly have more features than the companies that have been around for 5 years, for 10 years. But what you can do is using the data of your customers, understand how they're using it, and provide them with an incredible experience. And that's something that you absolutely can control. So the customer success team job, there's two parts. As a company, there's two parts in how you grow the business. There's growth, and then there's retention. So I'll start here with retention. This is an internal customer dashboard that the customer success team built themselves. It's something that's absolutely amazing. And I got to give a lot of credit to the team. And not only do they have the ability to manage churn, prevent churn, and do the upsell, they're able to build technical tools and integrate data that allows us to manage our customers. And the interesting thing is we decided to build this tool because we wanted a tool that will help us to integrate with the database internally, as well as the third-party data that's available out there. Companies like Mattermark that provide things like funding data, and we wanted to integrate that into a complete customer dashboard. So this is a tool called Torpedo. It helps us identify immediately who's signing up to our platform and understanding if our customers are decreasing in spend. A lot of this is very, very important data, which I'll walk through. So, Max, did you have a question?
No, keep going.
Okay, cool. I was getting a little bit of echo. I thought you were unmuting. So from Guardian is the first tool within Torpedo. It is purely focusing on preventing churn. It plugs into a data science API that our data analytics team created to predict churn. We now record every single reason of why our high-value customers are churning. The system checks for churning from a quick churn standpoint, meaning if a customer is immediately slowly using less servers on DigitalOcean, we know about it. If they're spending less than their previous months, we know about it. And another thing we want to track for is slow churn. A lot of times you don't see customers immediately just shut everything off and disappear. They start to use less percentage of your services. So maybe they'll spend down 10% of servers. Next month, they'll spend down 20%. It's very, very difficult if you're not monitoring both slow churn and fast churn, because not all the time do customers give you a big heads up that they're no longer satisfied with your platform. So we'll move into a little bit of what specifically the Guardian report looks at. So the Guardian report for every single customer, you'll see that there's a blue box that kind of covers. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're ensuring privacy of our customers, but we understand every high-value customer that's on DigitalOcean. How long have they been a high-value customer? What is their average invoice? What is the maximum that they've ever spent? That part is very, very important, because now you know what their spending potential is. Is that the max that they've spent during your conversation? Is that the most that they're capable of spending on your platform? Where they're projected to be and what their last invoice was. All of this is very, very important data for your customer success team or your account managers or whoever's interfacing with your customers, it's difficult to upsell them when they've been consistently churning for the past 6 months. And another note of what this tool does is we understand that some users, they just spend differently. For example, we have advertising tech and big data companies using DigitalOcean. Their usage fluctuates. So that's something that we need to let the system know, that we don't need an alert for every single time this customer is spinning down servers and spinning up servers, because they are a fluctuating user. So moving on, the next set of data that we're looking at is customer sentiment. This part is probably one of the most important parts, and how that customer sentiment ties to product requests. Your product team heavily depends on the feedback that your customer success team or your account management team does to build a product. DigitalOcean, we're in a very, very competitive market. The cloud infrastructure market, the web development world, technology is constantly changing. Our customers expect things. Even if they're a very, very happy customer on top of DigitalOcean, there are features that they're looking for, and that data needs to be funneled to the product team, because number one, you want a way to keep your existing customers. Secondly, those products and services can help you upsell your current customer base. And lastly, if these customer base is asking for those features, if you're looking for identical profiles of your best customers, you now know what features your company needs to build to go out there and get more of these customers. Now, when you're talking about sentiment, we want to know the number of times this customer has created an interaction. So we're tracking the number of interactions. Has this customer pinged us 7 times in the past month, which is probably a very, very high frequency? How many times have those 7 times been a negative interaction? How many times have those been a positive interaction? And more importantly, when was the last interaction? You want to make sure you are engaging in various touch points. One thing that the customer success team at DigitalOcean is starting to do now is we're not only just reaching out to the customers that are having issues with us or are very happy with us. We want to reach out to every single customer on a very consistent basis to continue to funnel product feedback into the product development team and help our team understand every single customer satisfaction on top of DigitalOcean. So both feedback, product feedback, the number of interactions, when was the last time the interaction, what that last interaction was, is very, very helpful to how your team manages selling to these customers and upselling to these customers. So there's a couple of values that come out of taking care of your customers. Number one, Ghost, which is a very popular open source blogging platform, they had a enterprise version of their software that was running on dedicated server. And long story short, they migrated that infrastructure onto DigitalOcean. And when you provide your customers with a really great experience, this is a graph that they created themselves. Not only do they give you detailed insights into how they're running their infrastructure, you can take that insight and take a look at your product base. What do similar customers look like? What services do they require? What services do your best customers need that you don't have today? And most importantly, these customer stories are written by your best customers. They've essentially become your champions. And these are incredible data that when you have prospects that are looking into DigitalOcean, or if you have existing customers who maybe aren't using our product to its full potential, they want examples of how other companies, other customers of yours are using your product. And there's no better data to present to them than your best customers, and there's no better data to present than the data that your customers created on their own without you asking for things from them. So any questions here before I move on to the growth side, Max?
No, it's looking good. You're covering a lot. I have a couple questions around how you would kind of replicate this for other types of companies, but we can get to that a little bit later.
Okay, awesome. So the next stage in how a company focuses on, everything is tied together. I'm not saying here like, hey, your company should focus on retention or growth, because retention is very, very much tied to growth. Everything you do on the retention side, everything you do from the customer success side, all leads to the information and the data that you're going to need from the growth side. When I'm talking about growth, there's growth from customer success and how they're upselling, And then there's growth from whether it's your inside sales team or your field sales team that's going out there and getting net new logos. So this is a dashboard of some of our customers, and it gives you a very quick insight as to the things that we look for on our team. We see things like how much are they spending, what was their last invoice, there's some mind share score and growth score that's provided by Mattermark, how much funding have they raised, and all of this helps us start to focusing on creating a custom lead score. And that lead score is what's going to be helpful for your entire team and how they manage their pipeline. And this is a very, very cool thing that the customer success team built into Torpedo. This is an intelligence report. And as you can see, what it does is anytime a customer signs up onto DigitalOcean, or if it's all of your existing customers, it gives you immediately who this person is, various descriptions describing what that company does, what this customer is looking for, all their listed domains, all the technologies that they're using, how much funding they've raised. And next, you'll see, we'll know immediately, it says 10 Torpedoes users with this domain. So when a customer signs up, let's say a CTO or the CEO signs up to your product, we now know that there's 9 other users that within his or her organization that are already using DigitalOcean. So now when you're reaching out to them, you're not reaching out to them cold. You're reaching out to them with existing champions from her company already using DigitalOcean. There's no better conversation to have when the CEO already has fans using the product that they just signed up for. And more importantly, we know exactly what industry they're in. All of this data is going to be very, very helpful in helping your company understanding customer profile. So customer success and sales ties into your marketing, ties into your community, ties into everything that your company does, because this information is the information that your product team is going to need to help build the future product of what your future customers are going to be looking for. Now, obviously, all of this information is going to be ported and synced into Salesforce. This is great for the inside sales team or your sales team to understand exactly, help them prioritize their information. And this is preset information that the team needs to be aligned on, mostly from your executive team all the way to the head of customer success, head of inside sales. These are all information that everyone needs to have a basic criteria of what looks like a good lead so that the entire company can be focused on the right things. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about how data is driven. And I think the most important thing is that how do we find more customers just like them? Thomas Vincent, who's a smart guy on my data analytics team, he uses clustering algorithms to build a similarity map of existing DO customers. So what he's doing here is collecting information on potential sales leads. And the similarities include things like the company description. That is super, super key. You want to understand from your customer standpoint, how do you find more of them? What are these customers doing? What markets are they in? What vertical are they in? Next, there's a funding standpoint. Obviously, it's another preset item that your executive team and your entire team needs to align on. The number of employees, monthly unique visitors. And what we're doing here is you're taking all this information and mapping it to your existing customers. So now I can go up to Thomas and say, hey, here's a list of the best DigitalOcean customers, the customers that spend the most money, the customers that don't require features that we don't need. You obviously want customers that can use your product the way that it's set up today. And those are going to be your easiest customers. Those are going to be the lowest barriers of entry for you in trying to land those customers. So now I'm going to Tom and say, hey, take this list of the best customers and help me find more that look just like it. And obviously, when he's giving me back a list of customers, it doesn't look like this. I just create a pretty graph to kind of how we're thinking about it. But we immediately get a list of customers that look like our best customers. And then we can import that into Salesforce, have our inside sales team start to reach out to them, and then continuously get that feedback. It's never perfect on the first time. Obviously, you have to continue to work with your data analytics team. But that's one thing that's very important. And as we're talking about this webinar, how important data is, DigitalOcean has an entire team of data analytics people that helps us drive to business objectives with data. And that should demonstrate like the only way we've been able to get to that growth is by doing things based on data, and there's no way around it. So one of the things that we're doing right now, and I kind of want to end with this slide, is you want to see what your entire lead base is looking for. Why aren't you closing deals? Why are people buying? Why would people pay more? What features are they looking for? Now, this data you're looking at is features that are requested by DigitalOcean customers or from potential customers and based on their expected spend. Just to be clear, this data is randomized for the purpose of not sharing everything with our competitors. So if any of our competitors are watching, please take this data very, very, very seriously. So these features are what our potential customers are looking for. So what it's doing, it's tracking account notes in Salesforce. It's automatically scraping account notes taken by our sales team as they interact with potential customers. And the sales team is expected how much potential spend are they going to bring DigitalOcean. That data point is absolutely important. Next, what features are they looking for? Is it an all or nothing? Can they come to DigitalOcean today? Or is it they can come over today, but they would spend X percentage more if you had this feature? So now it's super, super important that your reps are taking great notes, that they're consistent about it. But this does a lot of things. It helps your company define your product roadmap, find out what things are the lowest hanging fruits that you can build off of. And more importantly, and the most important thing is you know how much money you can bring in based on features. Now, as I said in the very beginning of this presentation, the sales team only just started at DigitalOcean since January 2016, so we don't have 10 years worth of data to share, but even just in these past 4 or 5 months, we're learning so much about what we're doing. So the earlier that you're doing this, the more data that you have and the more that data can evolve. And that's something that we're very, very adamant about, is doing things early and doing it often. This way we are making very, very key decisions. Now, just a little interesting story to close out my presentation is why we're launching a sales team now at DigitalOcean, now that we've raised $123 million, now that we've gotten 700,000 customers through organic growth. It's because of all the data that we've collected. I mean, the fact that a company can get to the R scale without a single salesperson speaks volumes about our brand equity. So we're taking that data, taking what we've learned on what customers are looking for, why they love DigitalOcean, how they're using DigitalOcean. And now the sales team is better equipped to go out there and have these conversations. And when we're having it, it's not just cold touch. We know exactly, based on our existing wide customer base, how and why they want to look at something like DigitalOcean. And that's been very, very helpful to our business. So that's how I like to end this conversation, is that data is something that you want to do early, and you want to do as early as you can in every aspect of your business, because it really does tie everything. It ties marketing to community to product to engineering, and it helps upsell, and it helps actually direct sales, and it helps the retention aspect. So it's an incredible tool that not a lot of companies that I've seen focus on this.
So you're continually doing customer development. So you're always searching for product market fit, right? I mean, you're figuring out your pricing as you go. You're figuring out, what people would be willing to pay for and how much you should charge for that. Would you consider this very like B to C to B type of sale?
Yeah, I mean, we've always done B2C and B2B. I mean, that's the thing. We have a wide range of customers that use DigitalOcean. So we have the individual developer, meaning somebody who is interested in setting up a blog, or somebody who's interested in launching the next Facebook and Instagram, or somebody who's the CTO of a company that's already raised $10 million in funding. Either way, you want to be able to collect that data, and that's why when you go back to this slide, is you want to see their feature, how much of that actually accounts for, because you never want to forget your first customers, the ones that you built for, the ones that got you here. So tying individual features, you'll see a lot of similarities. Just because you're a developer that's trying to launch the next Facebook doesn't mean that you don't need the same features that Facebook, who's already established, needs. So number one, you have to find the similarities in what they're looking for from a feature set standpoint, but there's also a time where you say, hey, this feature is going to bring us $10 million in the next year. We should build that.
When you think about this from your perspective, like a traditional SaaS company, B2B SaaS, how could they do something similar? I mean, should their reps be playing kind of like customer development, listening to, understanding what areas of the product that most of their customers are using and what they're not using, and pricing things differently? I mean, what would you do for like a traditional B2B model?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, even when we started our sales team here, that's what we looked for. We didn't look for, obviously you want people who are hungry. Obviously you want people who want to generate revenue for the business and themselves. But the entire company, how many people actually goes out there and physically talks to customers every single day? You have the customer success team, you have the account management team, and you have the sales team. And as a sales organization, you are bringing in data from a very specific segment of the market that your company is going to need. Ultimately, you can't sell unless you have the features that the customer is looking for. And your customer success team, your account management team, they only have so much information. In a traditional B2B business, their information is limited to what their existing customers are going to need. And unless you're a company who is satisfied with status quo, you are looking into the future. You are looking into your business's 5-year plan, 10-year plan. You want to build for not only just your customers of today, but your customers of tomorrow, your future customers. And that's the only type of information that your sales team can generate and your sales team can get, because your customer success team isn't out there talking with new customers and new prospects.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks a lot, Edward. We're going to keep you on for Q&A in a little bit, but we're going to kick it over to Andy now from Mattermark to kind of pile on this a little bit more.
Awesome.
Andy, take it away.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, guys. This was really exciting. Edward, I had so much envy during that of the internal tools that you have for customer success. As a company that's a little bit smaller, one day I aspire to have something so excellent. So that was really cool to kind of get a peer into what you guys have been building. Also especially cool because you're using Mattermark's data.
Yeah, it's been really, really great for us.
Yeah, it's great to hear. So I'm Andy. I'm one of the co-founders here at Mattermark. I lead all the revenue teams, everything from sales development to sales to customer success. And I guess to introduce Mattermark just a little bit, so we started out about 3 years ago, initially helping venture capital firms help venture capital firms find companies to invest in using data. So everything from data that we found in news articles to you name it. And a few of those investors you can see here on the left side. But the interesting thing that happened over the years was that these investors that we were working with started saying, hey, you know who else could use this? Is the B2B sales teams in our portfolios. Because just like we're trying to use data to find companies to invest in, they could be using this data to try to find companies to sell to. And obviously you can see DigitalOcean has been a great customer of ours here. And that's a little bit of kind of where we came from and where we're headed. How we work is we use all kinds of different data. We will license data, we'll use regulatory filings, crawl through news sources, collect some data on our own, and also pull data from all kinds of interesting places, and then do some analysis on top of it to categorize big businesses and all kinds of other cool stuff. So what I wanted to show everyone today was how to use your ideal customer profile to find new customers, but then also to even use Mattermark's data to figure out how you might even be able to price new products for your customers. So the first thing here is that it really amazes me how many companies I speak with, whether we're selling to them or whether they're friends of mine, that they're not totally clear on who their ideal customer profile is. And so when I say ideal customer profile, I mean using firmographic data to determine who makes a great customer for you. So how big are the companies that you like to sell to? What industries are they in? Where are they located? Those kinds of things are really important. So before you can do just about anything in terms of targeting new businesses, you need to figure out who you need to be selling to. And that's kind of the first step. So the next thing I want to show is kind of how you can use data to find new customers if you know your ideal customer profile. And you really only need 3 data points to get started. Whether you're a small business with 3 people people in a garage or whether you're hundreds or thousands of employees, if you have a headcount range that you like to sell to, plus a geography and also a category of business, then you can find new customers to target. And I'm going to show you how to do that with Mattermark here. So I'm going to open up Chrome and just show you this in real time. So what you're looking at here is Mattermark, and it looks kind of like an interactive spreadsheet. Our data works on a lot of other places like Salesforce and Excel spreadsheets, and I'll show you that in a second. But anyone can get started with this just really quickly with a trial. So let's say that you are a business and you like to sell to enterprise software businesses. So we're going to go do a filter there. And you like a headcount range of 50 to 500. Maybe that's your mid-market definition. And so you want to find businesses like that. And you only sell to businesses in New York because that's your territory. So there we go. So now what we've done is we've gotten a list of about, and I swear to God this was not planned, that DigitalOcean is at the top of this list.
Well, I mean, that means we're doing well, so thank you for that, but this is definitely not planned.
Yeah, that is too funny. So we have a list of 174 companies here that all are between 50 and 500 employees that are in the New York area that are in enterprise software. And one of the ways that you can use this now is you can go ahead and you can save this to a list, and let's say you want to say, all right, I want to save this to a list for my sales development team to go hit. During the week of May 12th. Create a new list with that, and you can go over and you can just share that with your team, and they can start to get working on it. And I'll show you how you can pull this out into your Salesforce and a bunch of other places.
Can you go back and tell us what mindshare and growth score means?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go take a look at that list. So Mattermark pulls in all kinds of data, and we have two scores that we use as kind of a way to show our customers what you can do with our data. Just like Edward was showing before that they created their own internal score, we have our own scores to kind of give people an idea of what we can do. So the growth score is the one that we find the most interesting, and what that really is showing is kind of growth signals. So inside of the growth score, you have everything from social media growth data like Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. It also has web traffic and inbound links, but on top of that, we have everything. We have employee count changes, and also if a company's been raising money. So we're trying to figure out if they are raising money, are they putting that to work by hiring people? So you can see over here that DigitalOcean has hired 54 people in the last 6 months, which is pretty incredible growth off of a base of 226 employees. In the growth score, we've actually had really interesting conversations lately with a lot of our customers, even some that are in the banking world, that talk about how the Mattermark growth score tracks the real meaningful outcomes with businesses. And so this is really cool stuff. The mindshare score is tracking more whether a business is attracting more attention on the web. So that can be good attention or it can be bad attention. So after there's some companies that have kind of flamed out, or maybe they've been in the media lately because they've had a lot of layoffs, they can have a high mindshare score because of that. But either way, a business wants to know if one of their customers or a potential client has a high profile event going on right now. So the mindshare score is a great way to get at that. So to go back here, we're just kind of showing that once you create a list, you want to get your sales development team or someone else started on it, you can just go in and share them with that team, and it looks a lot like Google Docs. So you can go share this with your sales development team, and they can go get to work on it. So that's pretty interesting. Now I'll pull this back. And so I love this quote. I think this is by Dawn, our VP of marketing here at Mattermark, is that your CRM is like a trash can. It's either empty or it's full of garbage. And it really is true that when you buy Salesforce or you buy any CRM, the real tragedy of it is then you've got to go fill it up with a bunch of data, and you have to go buy that somewhere. And then once you do have data in there, you have to go clean it up. And Mattermark can help with both of those things. And it's things that we do internally. We use our own data to do exactly this. So if you wanted to sync your Salesforce with Mattermark data, the cool thing that it does is it can just fill in all these fields, so you don't have to have a browser. So if your team lives in Salesforce, you don't have to open up a bunch of different windows, and it can show you everything from the growth score there to also show you every information from total funding to when the company was founded and what industries they work on. The other cool thing about the way that we integrate with Salesforce is that we don't put it in an iframe. We don't put it in a format that you can't use. You can go build all kinds of alerts inside of your Salesforce off of this, so you don't have to go and just kind of rely on opening it up on every single company page at once. So that's one of the cool ways that you can use Mattermark. Again, get your ideal customer profile together with just a few data points from the headcount range that you like to work with to industries and where the companies are located, and you can get to work pretty quick. So that's pretty exciting. The next thing I wanted to show everyone here that we talked a little bit about is pricing a new product, which is always exciting. So we asked our account execs at Mattermark recently to fill out a Google Sheet. A lot of people use Google Sheets to collaborate. And we asked them to fill that out with customers that they thought they could sell a new product to, just to kind of get an idea so we could go do some experimental selling. So I filled this out with dummy data. So these aren't all the companies that we were going to go sell to. But this is kind of an example of what you could do inside of Google Sheets with Mattermark. So I said, let's fill out every one of the companies we think we could sell this product to. I made a few columns with a few possible price points to see what we could get if we went and sold this at a given close rate, and see what percentage of maybe a quota commitment that would be. And this was a good start, but the chances of you selling a new product at the same price point to a bunch of different companies at different sizes is pretty low. So I wanted to go a little further and do a little bit more analysis. So this is where the Mattermark Google Sheets and Google and the Excel plugins really shine. So you can do all kinds of analysis in here. And you'll see I have a column for our domain. And what Mattermark can do is with a simple, if you just know the name of a company, you can actually go and match on a company's domain. So let me show you how that works here. You'll see the formula up top, mm_domain, and then you just find the company's name. And you can pull a web domain just using our Google Sheets integration, which is really awesome. And then once you have that domain, you can do all kinds of other analysis on these companies. So I'll show you one here. Oh, I think my screen just froze. Hold on a sec.
Sure thing. All right. Well, while you're resetting, are you paying attention? Because I wanted to ask you a couple things.
Yeah, so well, I think I'm going to have to reset my computer. So maybe if you have any questions, you could ask Edward. I'll be back in maybe 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thanks guys.
Edward,
sorry about this.
You still there? You on mute?
Nope, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now. So I got a question for you. So you did all this amazing growth, obviously, without a sales team. Now that you have a sales team, are they focusing on outbound and net new? We talked a lot about customer success and using the data. But what does the sales team approach look like? Now, what are your plans with it? How do you specializing SDRs, AE? What's the plan?
Yeah, they're focusing purely on outbound and net new logos. And like I said, I mean, when you're building out a sales team, you're basically implementing everything from scratch. So we have a few SDRs, we have a few AEs, but really their goal in the initial part, and I think this may be an interesting lesson for companies out there that are just launching their own sales team for the very first time, is that not everything is going to be easy right off the bat. I mean, you have to build out the sales process, you have to build out the sales training, and you have to really understand what those customers are. So we talk a lot about, Andy was talking a little bit about ICP. What does your ideal customer profile look like? And you're gathering a lot of data. You're spending a lot of time creating that perfect ICP. You spend a lot of time getting everyone on board, all the executives, all the key stakeholders on board on what the ICP looks like. And then you're going out there and you're testing it. Is that really valid? I mean, like I said, all you really know is the information that your customer success team and your account managers have provided you. So right now the sales team is going out there. We are generating revenue. We are building a solid pipeline. But one thing that we're also doing is we are learning and building that ICP as we go, and we are learning and building the sales process as we go. And it's a super, super fun journey.
So you've seen your ICP evolve as the products evolve. Is that because you've built new product lines? What do you attribute that to?
So our ICP has evolved because we've always had this vision of becoming world's most dependent and world's go-to infrastructure provider. But we never saw it as, hey, let's build for the enterprise or let's build for the Fortune companies. Because ultimately we knew that a enterprise company or a Fortune company doesn't use your product. It's not a company using your product. It's an individual user. It's an individual customer. It's a developer. It's an engineer sitting in a room working 12-hour days or getting a call late at night that is managing your infrastructure. So we set out to build the simplest infrastructure. All of our features were catering to that user, but we knew that user is constantly evolving. That user could be somebody that is launching a startup, like I was saying. But now that user could also be somebody that's working in a Fortune company where they require security and compliances. And so for us, that is why our product's evolving. We've always built for the same person, which is the technical user who's managing cloud infrastructure. Yet the profile itself is not the profile of the customer. It's just the profile in the business that user is in. So for us, it's been very, very easy for us to add features because we never built from top down. A lot of these companies you'll see, they'll build for the enterprise and they'll reach out to a company and say, hey, what are all the things that you require? What compliances do you need? What features do you need? And they have 50 people in a room, 25 of them are never going to use the product, but they're providing feedback. And now suddenly you find yourself building for them. We went the other way around and it's been working great for us.
That's great. Well, we got Andy back here. Andy, are you all set? Nope, not yet. Give them a minute.
Yeah, that's part of doing live demos. They're super, super cool, but you're at the mercy of the demo gods. And
yeah. Well, you guys what else do you guys use? What else is part of your stack?
We use Outreach, we use Mattermark, we use DataNice for specifically around data. We use Mattermark and DataNice and Clearbit. Those three tools have been pretty different in terms of what different bits and pieces that are relevant to the business, whether it's funding or technology. So it's really on the user to know. But like I said, I mean, I wouldn't be on here if I didn't genuinely think that the Mattermark product, as Andy was demoing, provided with us for a lot of the private funding data we're looking for. The last thing you want is the CTO of some Fortune company signing up to your product and then you sending them out a standard hello email without that personal touch, because that first interaction is everything. And that's one thing that the customer success team does with that data is that the second we find out somebody with, let's say, you taking Mattermark's example, with a high growth score, high mind share score, a significant amount of funding, we know that that's a company that is interesting to us. We know internally we've defined what metric and what benchmarks defines that, and we ultimately want to reach out to that customer on the side with a very personalized email and perhaps having somebody higher up immediately do the outreach. And you need to automate that because it's difficult if you're relying on your team to tell you, hey.
What about Torpedo and Guardian, the other ones that you were talking about?
Yeah, so that's not a data set. That's an internal customer management tool that we've created. So
you created those. So those aren't openly
those.
Available.
They're openly available to DigitalOcean employees, yeah.
So, is there any open source that you guys worked off of, or are there things that you would recommend people do if they want to do something similar to Torpedo and Guardian?
No, and it's really a few members of the team, Tyler and Derek, who spent a lot of time building that internally, and it came out of individual need. I mean, we took a look at other customer success management tools out there. I don't want to name drop them, but it just didn't feed our needs. We have very, very specific, and we have a complex internal database, so we ended up just building it ourselves. And the great thing about building things yourself is that, I mean, you have this build versus buy conversation. Is that, yeah, you can buy, it's a full feature that works great, but when you build it yourself, anytime you want something, you just add it. And that's what works great for us, and that we can constantly evolve it. We have a team internally that can manage it. We have enough funding and enough engineering to manage our own tools. and we can integrate any third-party data such as Mattermark anytime we want. And as new data sets come on, it's very, very easy for us to integrate that data without having to reach out to our account manager for a tool and say, hey, are you guys integrated with this yet?
So we got Andy. I just jump back on. I don't think that I don't think the PowerPoint's going to work with GoToWebinar. It keeps crashing it. So maybe we can just hang out and have a conversation for the next 15 minutes or answer some questions.
Definitely. So we had a bunch of questions for Ed around the tools, and then we had one here for Andy about the data. So this is something I was going to ask before you popped up. The data that's pulled into Mattermark, how often is that refreshed? You saw 226 employees, I think, was the first one on the list, if I remember correctly. What if somebody got fired today, or I don't know, got hit by a bus or something like that? How often does that update? How accurate is that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have, thousands, if not closer to millions of data points in Mattermark, and some of them are updated at different intervals, right? But just about every one of the data points in Mattermark is updated at least monthly. So we might not catch we don't quite have the alerting capability to say that, hey, Joe Smith just got fired from DigitalOcean, but we can pick up on that on kind of batches each month, and you can see that. One really cool thing about the way that our data works like that is we can actually see layoffs before oftentimes they're announced. If you open up Zenefits and Mattermark, you can see they started to let people go in December, and people were only starting to report on that and really have that conversation about what's been going on with them only the last month or two, and we could see that several months ago. So that's one example of
Do
how
you use LinkedIn, or is that like a big no-no?
We pull our data from all kinds of different places on where people work. So people will disclose where they work publicly in a number of different places. But obviously that's one we like to keep pretty close to our chest because it's pretty valuable data.
Of course. Cool. So using Mattermark, you can't find contact info or individual data. You can only find it on companies, right?
So we do have key people information on a lot of businesses in Mattermark. Just kind of saying, here are some of the founders, here are a lot of the executives. As far as contact information, that's a really nice jumping off point for a lot of businesses. Once they discover there's a company that they'd like to get involved with, obviously they want to reach out to them. That's not something.
What do you in that case? Like, what do you typically see people using in conjunction with Mattermark as far as technology goes?
It really depends. A lot of companies will have a pretty robust contact database inside of their Salesforce. Some businesses will hire outsourced workers. Some people will use something like a Zoom Info. I mean, there's a whole host of different places you can get contact information. But the tough part about the contact information business is that it changes so frequently. As soon as someone leaves, or
everybody's doing it. It's easy to do. I guess, you guys drink your own champagne. You use Mattermark. So what else does your sales team use themselves? You're on Salesforce, Mattermark. What else is part of that stack?
Yeah, we've actually been using a CRM called a Base for a little while, but we're in the middle of a Salesforce implementation. So all kinds of different tools that we use. We have in the past utilized a couple different services, a few, Leadware, Lead Genius. We've actually done our own research. We have our own in-house sales development team. And one of the cool things about building a company that helps B2B sales teams is that we have an engineering team who's constantly trying to build products for B2B sales teams. And they have customers right in the same room. And so our sales development team and our sales team will go to the engineering team and say, hey, this is a problem we want to solve, and they can kind of help us with that. So that's kind of where our skunk works. The stuff coming down the pipeline for Mattermark's products is we get to kind of test out first. So without giving too much away, that's one of the places we get to go work too.
Okay, cool. We got a question that just came in for Ed here. How long, what period of time has to go by before you consider somebody actually churned?
We start to take a look at churn data if they start. We've set an internal threshold. So let's say you want to say if their spend goes down by 20% on a month-to-month basis, we start to consider that a churning customer. You never want to take a customer and reach out to them when they've actually churned, because at that point, the chances of them coming back is slim to none. So when we use the words, that's what we define account churn. as well as revenue churn. Account churn is when that customer is completely gone. So we consider that when, for us, it's using droplets, which is virtual machine, and we consider an account churn when their account has now 0 droplets, meaning they're no longer leveraging any services of DigitalOcean. We consider that completely churn. But we absolutely start to reach out to that when we notice revenue churn. And as that customer spend continues to dwindle, whether it's a fast churn or a slow churn, we try to capture and reach out to that customer. And even if it's automated, you're sending out an email that's saying, hey, notice you're spinning down servers. Is there something that we can help you with? By bringing in that data and focusing on revenue churn instead of account churn, you're reaching out to customers very, very early in the churning process. And a lot of times you'll find that it's due to economic reasons or different reasons that don't necessarily mean that they don't like you, but you want to reach out as early and as often as possible.
Okay. Interesting. Cool. Well, if you want to catch a demo from Mattermark, Andy, you're going to be doing any other demos? You know, I know we got cut off here.
Yes. Well, I think that every time I've opened up PowerPoint and tried to do the demo in there, it seems to crash the go-to webinar. So I don't know if I want to risk opening that up again and setting up another goose chase. But I think that said, you know, Edward, and I really enjoyed a lot of your presentation, and so much of what I kept thinking throughout that is that probably one of the benefits of having the engineering team that you have and being at the size and scale of DigitalOcean is that you're able to build an internal tool like that that's so helpful. But I've got to also believe that there's a lot of stuff that you're doing in spreadsheets that might feel a little bit more relevant to businesses that are, you know, kind of at our size of 50 people or so. Is there anything else like that you guys do in terms of analysis of your customers outside of the internal tools that you've built?
You know, to be honest, that tool that you saw earlier, Torpedo, is largely leveraged by the customer success engineers. So the people that directly interface with the customers. In terms of data analytics, I know that our data analytics team does a lot of work in spreadsheets still and Google Sheets. So that's something that I can't speak on, but I absolutely agree. Like, not every company has the capability or the enough engineers or enough technical skills to build their own tool. And a lot of times, if you're still working in spreadsheet, that's why I really found what you were doing earlier. That was great. I mean, the ability through formulas to immediately fill out company information through Google Sheets is super incredible. And I think our team ourselves leverages that as well. So I don't want to say that tool is what everyone in the company uses. We definitely have data analytics people that still live in spreadsheets, that still love Excel, and they wouldn't trade it for the world.
Awesome. Well, you know, one thing that I think that we could do real fast, and obviously we'll make sure that our team can follow up on any kind of a demo that anyone else would, if they want to see how Mattermark works. But one thing that we can do is if you turn over the presentation to me, I can at least have our website up that shows a little bit of a trial of kind of what some of these things look like, and maybe that'll at least get us part of the way so people can see what we were trying to show.
I think you're presenter.
There we go. Just got it.
There you go. Cool.
Awesome. So if you take a look here, this is kind of what I was going to show everybody is that Mattermark, just inside of a Google Sheet or even Excel, is you can do these formulas that pull all kinds of stuff from, you know, what business model a company has to where they're located to how big they are just inside of a sheet. And this is really great for teams that that don't have the internal resources of a DigitalOcean, or even if you do have the resources, but you just want to run a little bit of an experiment real fast and kind of prove something out, that this is what we found to be really valuable. So this is kind of what I was going to show, but if anyone wants to check this out, we have a little survey just right after this, and if you're interested in seeing a trial or just kind of taking a look, then we can absolutely follow up with you and get you on board.
Cool. Yeah, well, we want everybody to fill out the survey that's coming out via email afterwards here. If anybody has any questions, Andy's at Sparkszilla and at Mattermark on Twitter, and Edward is at Edward Chiu and at DigitalOcean on Twitter. I'm at Max and at Sales Hacker. We finally got the Sales Hacker Twitter handle after 2.5 years. Yeah, that's a big win for us. And then we'll have the recording up of this tomorrow, and then hopefully maybe we can even add, something in for you, Andy. Maybe a link to a video or something that we missed out on. And then we have our conference, Sales Machine, in New York City. If you're on the East Coast, Sales Machine, June 15th and 16th, presented by Sales Hacker and Salesforce. Definitely get there. Gary Vaynerchuk, Seth Godin, Simon Sinek, and some more big-name speakers and a bunch of sales practitioners will be there as well. Mattermark is sponsoring, and DigitalOcean will be there. So, guys, great talking with you. Thanks for joining. This was awesome. Sorry we didn't get to see a little bit more of your stuff, Andy. But we'll make sure that anybody interested gets to take a look.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Max. Thanks, Andy, and thanks everyone for joining. This was awesome.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you all.
See ya. Join us next week. Bye.
Bye.